Hey everyone, welcome to Plastic Cards Podcast. We're doing a special little tidbit today. We talked to indie dev from England, from Christchurch, and we talked about his journey and his struggles and you know what went on with that. But so he was a cool guy.
Now I got to remember to look at that camera now.
Yeah.
So
Well, they're both right next to each other, but yeah. Okay. But yeah, so we talked to him about his journey, and here is that little clip.
Enjoy.
All right, Callum. So you're an indie dev. You're based out of Christchurch, England. So yeah, I wanted to get into kind of what brought you into indie development. You know, I have your overview stuff too, but like, do you have a kind of game that just lit up your mind, saying like, hey, I want to start making games, or was it like more of a gradual thing that brought you towards that?
Sure, yeah. I think it was mostly I grew up with two older sisters, one of which is sort of nearing her 40s now. And she still plays more games than most people I know. So I was quite fortunate for when I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, very young. And she used to play games like Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy 8 and all these kind of games that I probably shouldn't have been subject to.
Yeah, was she trying to make you shit your
anyway.
pants or something, or what's the deal?
Yeah, I know. It's but I mean, luckily it was quite nice because it's sort of as a kid, sort of I used to watch sort of films and TV shows. There was never really a sort of barrier as to what I was allowed to consume, really.
I kind of grew up the same way. I think, Gavin, you maybe came to it later, but
Yeah, well, yeah, my sisters were the ones, like, she snuck in Mortal Kombat, and they were playing the harder games, so I was training on Battletoads.
Oh god,
with my sister.
Yeah, I think it's just sisters like to terrorize their siblings. I think that's the main thing.
It's good. It battle hardens you.
Yeah.
They're more psychological with how they.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
This will get him girls if he's played the Resident Evils, right?
But yeah, and I think it was helpful in a way because it allowed from a young age to realize that games were things to tell stories the same way. Because I got into reading and writing quite early as well, so I sort of straight away recognized that games were a form of storytelling from quite a young age. Mostly because again, they used to make me watch horror films, so I used to think, "Cool, these are really scary stories," and then I see these games, and I'm like, "Cool, these are really scary stories," and so I think I was just able to make that connection. And there's actually an example, sort of that I've sort of realised as I've got older, and it's I remember when sort of at my school, Pokemon came back. Everyone used to download these emulators on their phones, and everyone would start playing Pokemon again. And I wasn't really into Pokemon, and I sort of credit that down to the fact that around that time when people used to play Pokemon, I was watching my sister play Final Fantasy. So for a little kid to then go to, I kind of see Pokemon as sort of baby's first JRPG. So it was kind of difficult for me to go to that really.
That's a good point, because it's like when you have various siblings, you're kind of coming into the whatever games throughout the years. It's like your reference points are different. So like
exactly.
You're experiencing Final Fantasy, but then you're seeing kids play Pokemon, so it's like a different thing there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That is so strange that made a comeback via emulator.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what, and we even I think 2 weekends ago was the Tetris World Championship.
Okay, yeah.
And
right.
the kid who got, I think, third place, it was the exact same thing. It was like they were just playing them on their emulators in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
See, we're old as fuck, so like I remember trading the Pokemon card game. Like that's what my experience was.
Yeah, well, I think it was mostly as well. I remember I do remember vaguely having Pokemon cards, and I remember the films and TV shows. But when it came to games, they weren't just really. I mean, I played them sort of when they came back into popularity again. Like the Game Boy Advance games. I sort of played them, and I liked them. But yeah, I mean, they were always compared to Final Fantasy for me. So I was always just like, why am I playing this when I could be playing? And I have nothing against Pokemon games. I just.
Right.
Yeah, they're just sort of. I don't think I was able to play them at a time where I would enjoy them as much now.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
I think it's definitely, if they're not your flavor, then they're not your flavor.
Yeah.
And it's definitely gotten more niche in that flavor. It used to be the first ones were very, very simple.
Sure.
And now, like, there's breeding, there's all these items. And I'm just like, I just want to.
Very Nintendo. Yeah.
Oh, very
Yeah.
Nintendo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of growing up with this heavy game influence from your older sister, your siblings.
Yeah.
So at one point, do you kind of start to dabble, or start to like really get into the idea of developing something on your own?
Yeah, I mean, it actually it was more to do with stories and creating characters and worlds from a younger age, and then sort of when I got to sort of my last years, and because in England we have, because I think college to you is sort of the like university to us, whereas
Gotcha.
our college is like your last 2 years at high school for you guys. So when I was just starting college, so that would be 13th grade. Is that
Okay.
is that a thing you guys? Yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
because right, we go up to 12, and so
Yeah, yeah,
we're more superior, so we got it down. You're
yeah.
right, but
Well, I
I'm messing
actually
around.
spent I did a fourth grade in America, so I should know a bit more. But
Oh, you did?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I was over in California for a year, so so I should know a bit more. But unfortunately, I'm not too clever in a lot of aspects. So.
You already know more about other countries than most Americans do about in reverse. So yeah, you're fine.
But yeah, when I started sort of my last couple of years of school, I enrolled on a computer game production course, and that was where I sort of connected the dots. Where I sort of thought, well, my favorite kinds of stories come from games. I love creating stories and characters. And as soon as I started doing it academically, I sort of fell in love with the theory. We did things like the history of storytelling in games, history of just sort of game genre, just things like that. And then with the second year, went into more practical things. And I just absolutely loved it. So I think that was the sort of main thing that allowed me to connect these two passions. And then it was kind of like a light bulb. I was like, oh, this is actually exactly what I want to dedicate my life to. So
Yeah.
sort of from around then, and then since then, it's been the massively turbulent journey of trying to understand it all and find your way into it, which I'm still obviously struggling with, but I definitely feel that I'm on the up sort of for the first time in a while. So
No, you know what? That's a good point. I wonder because I kind of share similar things in my mind where I maybe have more ideas than I have the technical knowledge to know how to
sure.
implement them. So were you finding like I want to write these stories, I want to create these worlds, but were you not? Did you not understand the technical part of it, or like creating that? Was there a hurdle there where did the actual development using the tools make sense to you, or you were more like coming from that story, building side of it?
Yeah, I think I'm just very impatient. I just want things to happen quickly.
Oh yeah.
And
Which is not games at all.
no, it's not. And I think when I finished college, I had the choice to go into university, but I have a couple of sort of mentor kind of characters who are in the industry, and they both advised me not to go to university because they said by the time you're out, the industry will have changed, and a lot of companies don't really. They'd rather see a good portfolio than a degree. So that was the sort of advice I took there. I ended up doing a online university course in the UK, which was good because it taught me the sort of knowledge about how games are developed, the whole development life cycle. I've been very sort of obsessive about it anyway since taking the course. So I sort of self-taught myself a lot about how studios work. I'm really into the industry and have been since sort of I was about 16, 17. So I suppose from a theoretical standpoint, I understood the effort it needed, but like you're saying, as soon as you get an idea for a story or a world, I was more fixated on what's this world, what's this setting, and what kind of gameplay mechanics can I put in that's going to sort of help bring out this story in this world and this setting, and because that's another thing as well, which I'm quite grateful for. But the way I look at a lot of games is, I always try and make sure that I'm thinking about gameplay mechanics that can help the sort of narrative side of things, because otherwise I might as well just write it as a book, which is what I ended up doing sort of further down the line. But so yeah, I think you're spot on with sort of by saying, you have all these ideas and then you sort of don't really realize how much graft and effort has to go into it. And I think that's where I sort of suffered. I mean, I started working full time as soon as I left school at 18. I moved out as soon as I left school at 18. I started, my social life really started around then as well. I've got a really sort of great group of friends who I see maybe a bit too often. And yeah, so just all those things came together and basically just sort of caused me some lessons to learn. But you know, it is how it is. That is the journey that you have to take. And
I feel like
yeah, so I'm sort
oh, sorry to cut you off, Callum. With
no,
indie development, I do want to showcase, not the huge bummer side of it, but that's a real big deal. It's like there's a lot of failure, there's a lot of trial and error, and I feel like
Sure.
I'd like to get that message to anybody who's trying it. Like just know that that's part of it, but don't let it falter.
Absolutely.
For course.
And I think it's so hard because of how amazing it is as well. I think the want to create and the want for people to, experience your creations is what makes it so hard, because, I'm here sort of in my head, like, I just want to create something. I just want people to experience that. But then with that comes, all the hard parts, like, oh, what if people don't like it? What if I'm not good enough? And then I don't know about you guys as well, because I mean, it'll be the same. It's the same for anybody doing any kind of personal endeavor, really. I always find myself comparing myself to other people, seeing other people's work and thinking, God, that's very impressive. Maybe this isn't for me. But then there's other times where I sort of even impress. It's just a journey of ups and downs. And it is, it's
You're cutting out a little bit, Cal.
The best thing. Oh, sorry, hang on a second.
I don't know if you're going underwater or in the elevator underwater, but
no, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, we got you. You just cut out a little bit at the end. But no.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing, to be honest. I think I was just repeating myself.
I'm just gonna keep pretending. Oh, we're losing you. Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's a good segue. So Gavin is actually, he does indie development as well, and I wonder if you experience those same things with same feelings rather with starting a project and either hitting these bumps. And I don't know if you want to have any thoughts on that.
It's absolutely something that everyone goes through, and it's tough to push through them, certainly.
Yeah, I wonder this is the best time with indie devs, because the power of the internet means that you can, if you are hitting a speed bump, if you're maybe on the side of building the story versus the the technical aspect or the coding aspect or the graphical side, it's like you can link up with other people who can now help bridge that gap. I don't know if you're feeling that same way about that, Callum.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I said in sort of my overview, because after that, I sort of the online university course I did, I remember I was listening to it was I think it was a Kind of Funny podcast, and they were talking to a couple of the guys from, can't remember the name of the game, it's something like Firebreak or Firepoint or something, and it's a couple of guys who used to work at Telltale, and they left, and they were saying that that they just got sort of tired of working on someone else's dream and sort of ambition. So that's why they left to do their own thing. And I sort of heard that, and I thought, I'm not actually doing this from a business perspective, from a making money perspective. This is just what I want to do. This is just what I love doing. This is what I want to dedicate my life to. So that was when I thought, well, rather than fretting and worrying about getting myself a portfolio to try and show companies, I'm going to just sort of go on my own. And that was where I really started to learn lessons of over ambition and what my strengths and weaknesses were, but it also allowed me to I met a great artist who sort of helped me a lot, and I met some great people doing it, but yeah, that's where I learned the majority of my lessons, and now the past sort of about 6 to 8 months, I've just been on a crash course of learning everything that wasn't my strengths, which included things like programming and things like that. And now I feel, fairly good about that aspect. And so who knows?
Now, with building those connections. I wanted to let you finish, Callum.
No, I was done.
Oh, gotcha. So how do you with going to schooling, or was it online? Like, how did you find making the best connections with other people, as far as just making those industry connections or other connections with people to kind of get these projects started? What was your best route?
So with my first project, I had an idea for sort of an isometric horror game, and that was sort of
That was
the
Freed,
first thing.
right?
Yeah, Freed. Yeah, and I started sort of writing, doing documentation for that, trying to sort of keep it grounded and understand what I wanted to do. And I looked on freelance websites like People Per Hour and things like that, and I just started asking for a concept artist just to, because the idea was, and again it's very probably naive of me, especially at that time, was to get some concept art, get the story written up, and then maybe go to Kickstarter and try and get something like that, which I now, looking back, it was way too forward of me. But like I said, luckily I met a great concept artist who fortunately loved my ideas enough to charge me hardly anything really. And and I met him, and then long story short, after I eventually realised this project was far too ambitious for my current technical skills at the time, he stuck with me for my next ventures until I finally came to a project where it was really doable, and it was it was more of a novel slash interactive comic that didn't require too much technical skills. It just required his art and my writing, which unfortunately he decided to stop doing art during, and he's only just come back now to do it. So when all that sort of happened, that was when I sort of similar to how I feel now, where I was feeling like, right, I really feel like I've found my sort of myself in what I want to do, what I can do. And then when I lost him, I was sort of like, well, I didn't really want to do game dev anymore, because it just felt like I was, trying to punch through a wall and not getting through the other side. So that was when I decided to just stick to writing, because that was definitely my strength. But then that came with its own sort of struggles. Writing is just as hard as game development because it has its own issues. And then I eventually came back to game dev, and here I am now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I imagine it can be a double-edged sword, where now it's easier to find people to collaborate, but
Yeah.
your projects early on really hinge and depend on them. They're interested in it as well. So when they leave, it's like you're left, picking up the pieces and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it helps in a way, because it's helped me now, where I've been sort of really knuckling down and getting my head down, just trying to learn everything that was holding me back before. It sort of allowed me to think, well, back then, I had to stop this project because of this. I had to stop this project because of that. So now it's really given me a great understanding of ambition, being too ambitious on projects. I sort of understand what I need to do. For example, the project I'm working on at the moment is something that I just want to release. I'm not too bothered about how polished it is. I just want to go through that process of releasing. Because
now, this is the project you're posting on Twitter?
Yes, yeah.
And do you have a name for it yet? I'm not seeing a name. I just wanted to make sure I referenced the right title. But
yeah, sure. I social media is something that I need to get sort of better at with that kind of thing. But it's going to be called Househead.
Gotcha.
And a lot of it's placeholder art at the moment. I have two artists working on it with me at the moment, but they're just sort of finding their style at the moment for it. And it's an idea that one of my artists had for a really creepy Silent Hill-esque enemy, which is a house with sort of these horrible lanky arms and legs, and it's going to be chasing you sort of through this endless runner kind of game. So at the moment, I'm just trying to implement all the basic functions of the game. It's going pretty well. It's been quite daunting. I mean, I've done probably about 5 or 6 projects in a similar vein to that, like 2D Unity projects, but just as personal exercises to get my scripting up to scratch. So this is my first thing that I'm really sort of doing on my own, and it's actually going scarily well so far. I've only been working on it a few hours a week, and haven't had any hitches or anything. So It's going
Get ready,
quite
I'm
well.
sure your
Yeah.
computer's gonna
Oh,
explode tomorrow and
Don't
other
worry,
bullshit.
I'm just from learning the amount I know now. I've already had tons of head exploding moments. So, um,
Yeah, what
yeah,
program are you using for this?
That's Unity.
yeah, I'm just using
Gotcha.
Unity. Yeah,
Okay.
And that's good too. I think that's a really positive attitude. I know you were saying just like less worried about stressing over every little less detail of polish and
Yeah.
just kind of getting something out the door, because that's such a hard um, skill to kind of learn, of when to push something out the door, when to just kind of get it done. And there's
Yeah.
so many people that have made all these brilliant concepts, but they just never release anything. It's like, well,
yeah, definitely.
we can't play your unreleased thing.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and I didn't want to become that person, because I wanted to make sure that I learnt from the lessons of when I was being overly ambitious, and luckily I was able to realize as soon as it happened. I mean, it takes something to happen. So, for example, my artist leaving, for me to then realize, right, I can't rely on other people. I need to, I want to do this. I can't let anything slow me down. And I'd be interested to know if you feel the same sometimes. But when I left college, I was very much like, in my head, I was like, oh, in a couple of years' time, I'll be in the industry, no problem. And now that I'm sort of probably no closer than I was then, and I'm 25 now, it's I sort of think I've wasted all these years because I'm no closer than I was when I left school, and that's sort of a big struggle I have internally, where I'm like, oh, all that time I wasted, trying to do these projects which I ended up ditching or postponing, and it's sort of like a mental battle I have sort of inside, where I'm like, but I need to remember that that had to happen for me to be where I am now. So I don't know if you've sort of experienced that kind of. It's probably just me being impatient again and just wanting everything straight away. But
Right. I mean, it's certainly. I think it helps to, even though it may feel a little bit unhealthy, like it's good to have that goal and be thirsty for it, right?
Sure.
Because if you're not, if you're not actively pursuing something, if you don't have an end goal,
yeah,
then what are you gonna do? It's like
Sure.
there's this psychological example I steal from a guy named Simon Sinek, and he sets one person in one end of the room. He says, "Okay, go ahead and walk forward." They start walking forward, puts a chair in front of them, and they just stop, right? So he does it again. He has them reset. He says, "Go to this spot in the room," and they start walking. He puts a chair in front of them. Well, they go around the chair and go to the spot. So it's sort of, if you don't have an end goal, you don't have something you're working towards. If you do hit a setback, then you're just dead in the water.
Sure.
So it
Sure.
it definitely helps. And one thing I will say too, with the artist kind of dropping out for a little bit, that's just I don't
You do experience
necessarily.
stuff like that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't necessarily think that, can't rely on somebody is necessarily the mentality to take. Now, I don't necessarily know the situation fully behind it, but that's just kind of part of it, is people are going to
Sure,
go through
yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff. I've
Yeah.
had a couple of artists like had their dad die or something. Why two of them? That's weird that I've had two. Maybe I'm bad luck here. But and sometimes you go through stuff and it can be a hard reset. I had one project where I went through. That one never came out though. I think I went through 3 artists on it because none of them just, or it's tricky, kind of a balance working with people.
Sure,
But that's
definitely.
Sort of the nature of
And I mean, because I remember he messaged me sort of say at the time saying, I'm really sorry. I just he personally needed to take a break from it all, and he didn't feel like he was going to be able to give me what I needed, and I appreciated his honesty so much, and that I had no hard feelings towards him at all, because especially somebody else who's going through their own creative journey, I understand completely that it does take a toll, and sometimes you do need a break. So it was more, I just thought, I need to not be too, I need to sort of not be lazy and think, oh, I'll get someone else to do this. I need to sort of see what my strengths are, try and work around them, and I think that's the thing. I lost what I was actually trying to achieve, which is, go through the processes, the basic processes that's going to make me not valuable, but make me somebody who people are going to want to work with, because I need to have lots of different experiences, and because I know that as well that I can't experience everything on my own. I need to be able to work with other people to experience that kind of sort of cycle as well. So I think when I say sort of not to rely on anybody else, it was more I just felt like I needed to improve my own skills a bit more.
And that's good. And it sounds like, so you're doing programming as well now too with Unity.
Yes.
And that's one of the tricky things. It's kind of crazy with especially indie game dev, is there are certain things that in a AAA industry that can just be your job, right? Like if you're a writer, you're just a writer, or you're a designer, you're just a designer, right? But it's like an indie, you got to wear multiple hats. You can't be just a writer. You can't be just a designer. You kind of have to be able to wear that multiple hats, and that's definitely I think really positive, kind of what you're doing, expanding with that, and that definitely helps you kind of achieve where you're going for, and certainly attract more people to work with you.
Yeah,
I feel like if you survive through that, then you're a valuable person within the games industry. If you're wearing all these hats and like dabbling and stuff like that, it's like who else is doing that just goes to one professor or one aspect of it and just trains in that one aspect. I imagine if you come out at the end, you're valuable because you have all this different stuff under your belt that you could do.
Yeah, and I mean that's what's frustrating, or has been frustrating for me, sort of learning programming recently, because it's something that I've tried to learn a lot, many times over the sort of past few years, and I just never got past the sort of fundamental section of sort of learning. I'd always sort of get the basics and then stop. And when you stop learning programming for a few months, it's extremely hard to remember what on earth was going on. So I think that's another frustration that's sort of been looming whilst I've been using these past 6 to 8 months. Actually really doing like a crash course and learning it all, is in the back of my head I've got, you tried doing this before. If you'd just done this 2 or 3 years ago, you think of where you'd be now. And I think that's the kind of things I think any not just game devs, but anybody who's trying to master their craft or go on their own personal endeavor into an industry they want to do. I think that's just the kind of mental battles you're going to have with yourself, because you're not gonna learn until you've tried and failed, and that's something that I am starting to realize now, and it's actually helping me sort of be inspired and motivated to keep working.
Yeah.
Now, Callum is. I don't mean to cut you off, Callum.
Oh, I was just going to say, and the nice thing, I know you said you kind of struggled with getting that programming part of it. Is the nice thing is you're sort of in this perfect age. If that's not necessarily your strength with it, there's so many different options for that, right? That's the lucky kind of era we're in. With like Unity has, for example, an extension that makes it a bit more like Unreal, where you can do everything visually. And while you're not necessarily coding, you are still programming, and you get everything the way you want it. Or certain other engines have that built in, and it's such a glorious time to have this passion.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And it was the first sort of engine I ever used, which probably would have been about 2016 now, was Game Maker, which I loved it, and it was great, and I made a few little personal projects on there, and then after that was when I tried delving into Unity and programming. It was all a bit daunting, so it was very hard to stick with it, and then more recently, when I came back into game dev after sort of my little hiatus when I was focused on my writing, I went to RPG Maker. I don't know whether either of you have sort of used that before. And I liked RPG Maker, and I was using it because the first project that sort of I wanted to do when I came back was like a little JRPG, which is another project that's in the graveyard along with all the other hundreds that I've started and stopped. But it was when I was doing that, I just thought, I'm trying to dodge this programming thing. I think maybe, I should just
Kevin had a
go
poop,
for it.
Yeah,
no problem. But yeah, I just thought at the time, I was trying to.
Oh
use
God, we're
RPG
both dying apparently. I'm sorry, Callum.
That's fine. yeah, I mean, at the time using RPG Maker, I remember just thinking, I was always worrying to myself, thinking, is this restricting? Could I be doing something better? Could I be using this time more wisely? So I just scrapped it and thought, you know what, I'm just going to dive into Unity head first, because it's a proper engine. It's something that's going to be
right.
really
Yeah,
valuable.
because if you think of like AAA studios, they're using these tools that I always hear of, like Unity, like Unreal. Like, so is it do you get to the point where it's like, should I just put my energy towards learning those tools that if I'm going to get into that world, aspect of it, should I learn that stuff instead? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I've actually come sort of full circle. Where I said earlier, I decided that I wouldn't want to work in the industry because I wouldn't want to work on other people's things. As I've started, working with Unity and realizing how much there is to it. I've thought that I'd probably be better off working in the industry, or trying to work in the industry in my full-time time, rather than working in what I do now, which is completely unrelated in my full-time time. And after Christmas, I sort of made the decision to go part-time at my job, move back home with my parents, which dented my pride greatly, but so that I can focus more time and energy into it, because the last thing you want to do after working your day job is to come home and sit in front of a computer again.
I understand, but I mean, especially with that, it's like on paper, does that suck? For sure, but that shows that, I mean, you're making these sacrifices already to make sure that you don't lose focus, because now you can focus less on like working as much, and you can just kind of put your time more into, is your mom going to be on your ass more? Yeah, but at least you can now start focusing more on your goals.
Sure, absolutely, and I think just having a full-time job in something that isn't what I want to do is enough of a drain in itself.
Yeah.
Just sort of being at work and thinking, this isn't what I want to do. That in and of itself is not nice.
Right, and that reminds me, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, or like podcasts with comedians, and a lot of their journey is very closely related, where they find that if they have these solid jobs, or like going through their trajectory, any comedians that have these solid jobs, they just decide to just kind of lean on that, and they leave that whole journey to begin with, because it's something that they can count on, and they make money, so they just kind of stop on that initial goal. But the comedians that have these crappy jobs that they just keep jumping from, because there's no safety net, they're almost forced more to jump full force into that goal, into that vision.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, actually, because the job I have now, it's a great job. It pays really well, and I'm fortunate to have it. But I think that's quite good for me, because even having that, I know that I would trade. I'd trade it in for not even anything to do with money. I'd trade it for absolutely anything that meant I could further myself in my knowledge of game dev, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I think in a way it's quite nice for me to know that I'm not driven by money or by a good job, or I'm driven by what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I mean, it's a nice thing to have, but also leaving my job, going part time, moving back home, that's going to give me the spur to, because it was a hard decision for me, because I respect my parents a lot and I don't want to have to lean on them at all.
So they're like, hey, we just got rid of this, pile of shit, and now he's back. It's like, but that's awesome on them do they understand more of your, are they, do they see your goals? Do they see the game industry? They go, okay, there's a career here, or are they kind of hesitant? Like, how do they view what you're doing?
They're really supportive, which again, I'm super, and the fact that they're very supportive, and that I'm fortunate enough to have such amazing parents that I can sort of say, I want to go part-time at my job, and I want to, focus more time on this. That was another reason why I found it hard to do that, because, I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends who wouldn't be able to do that. And so I sort of felt in a way guilty that I was using something that not everybody has at their disposal. So that was because it was a decision that I wanted to make for about a year. And it took me about a year to actually pluck up the courage to say something and to do it, because of things like that. I mean, like I said, I moved out as soon as I could when I left school, and haven't. And I mean, so I've lived on my own for 6 years now, and so it's a big. Right. It was a big move in that respect, but yeah, I mean, also because I sort of felt so guilty because I was like, well, not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to be like, oh, I hate my job, I'm going to quit and do something that I like.
I understand. Yeah, you feel like, okay, I'm in this role of privilege or whatever because I have the choice that I can make. But at the same time, it's like sometimes you're dealt with whatever cards, and if you don't take advantage of whatever you have, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, I'm curious with the indie dev game scene in England, and you're part of England. Is there a community, like a physical community, that you can go do like game jams or meetups? Is there anything like that in your area?
Yes, that's a good question, actually. I'm in a Facebook group because where I live on the very, very south coast of England, and there's a city here. You might have heard of it if you're into sort of sport and things, but called Southampton.
Yeah, I was just reading about the other day. What are you talking about? Yeah, no.
No, that's fair enough. You're lucky not to know it. But
I wish I did. I wish it wasn't so dumb, but yes.
But yeah, so that's quite local to me. So I'm in a sort of Southampton game developer group, and they do meetups and things like that. And I haven't been to one before because I always said to myself I'd go to one of these meetups once I have something to show.
I see. We're talking about game jams and that kind of meetups.
Ooh.
Yeah. In this area.
So it's always been something I'm quite vocal. Or I've been vocal on the community page before, but I've never been to one of these meetups just because I thought I'd feel like an idiot turning up and speaking to these people, and then they'd be like, oh, so what are you working on? It's like, oh, well, I am working on something, I promise, I just haven't brought it with me. So that's actually something
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
At the same time, if you want to keep that fire alive, it's like I think the presence of you can't discount like real human contact where you can meet up with other people who are going through your struggle and like to talk to them, even if you don't have something to show. It's like that's still a big, and then you make those connections too. Like that's a big part of it. I wonder if other devs if they just stay on the internet, I think you can kind of that fire can die a bit faster.
I think the other thing too that's easy because you said you haven't been to a meetup.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Well, yeah. No, I've been meaning to, but not until I've got something that I can show off and let people play and get feedback on.
Right, because the thing to remember too is like you feel like you're in that state of like, oh well, I don't really have this all the way polished, or I don't have something released, or something like that, and then you go there, and then there's other people like that. There are other people in sort of a similar situation. That are good to talk to, and maybe they've learned a lesson or two that you haven't, that you can kind of take to heart. And a lot of these people aren't like my fear going to some of these meetups is like, well, I haven't released anything that's made any money, so no, they're gonna look at me like funny or something, but they're like, no, that was them
right
5 years ago.
Sure.
Like, getting over that mental barrier that you would have, like
because I think the next meetup they're doing is on the 19th, and I've already said to the guys who are sort of doing the art for me that I'm going to plan on going to it with bring my laptop and let people play what I've done so far, just because not only because I need to do it and I haven't done it yet, but also it would be good just to get feedback on it, because I also feedback from other indie devs, because I'm not looking for feedback like, oh, that doesn't look right, or that doesn't sound right, or because I know it doesn't, because that's not what I'm trying to sort of polish at the moment. I want like the feedback with the knowledge behind it that's going to really actually help me improve as a developer, because I might have somebody say, oh, well, there's a good method of doing what you're trying to do here that's going to make it better, and etc. I will be going to my first meetup, hopefully get over that fear of like you said, imposter syndrome, and it'll be good to chat to these guys and see what they have to say, because they're all very some of them are very successful, really. They've had some really great projects, really great Kickstarters. So I'm sure their sort of feedback would be crucial.
Yeah. And don't forget to bring a notebook. I made that mistake my first time going to one, and like the next time I wrote down everything. Like even if it was a bad idea, they're like, "Oh, you should add this." I'm like writing it down, and just like and it sucks to like try and put on a smile, but do put on a smile when they're giving you that feedback that you've heard for the 1000th time. Like, yes, sound effect is bad. Sound effect is bad. but you really like you come home and you're like, I gotta fix that sound effect, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's
And
funny you say. It's funny you say about the notebook actually, because that's something that I've always been awful for, even at my sort of full-time job, which is unrelated. But when I go for meetings there, I'd always forget a notebook. So I actually I upgraded my phone recently, and I got one of the new Note 10s with the pens, so I can now sort of write things on my phone, which I accidentally bring with me everywhere. So so yeah, so luckily the notebook's sorted now.
Right. And something too, like sometimes things that seem like a bad idea turn out to be a good idea when somebody suggests it. And it, it sucks. You got to take when people are being like a armchair game designer coming at you, or just like a fan. But I remember with the last project I was working on that is unreleased, but it had unlimited ammo, and someone was like, "Well, why don't you? I don't know when I'm gonna run out of ammo." And I'm like, "Well, it's unlimited." And he's like, "Yeah, but I don't know when I'm gonna run out." I'm like, "All right." So just as a joke, I put in limited ammo, and the game became 3 times more fun.
Yeah.
By adding in that aspect that I thought was an absolutely idiotic idea.
Yeah, well,
it's like, now
sometimes,
you know when you're running out of ammo.
Yeah, and especially with mechanic design, I think that's something that sometimes you do just need like a fresh perspective to look at it, because it's something that, I mean, you could be the best mechanics designer in the world and not think of something really easy, and it could be a 10-year-old kid who sort of spots it. So I think getting feedback is crucial, and it's something I need to sort of get over that fear of showing off my stuff a bit more. To sort of do, and I think, what we said earlier about imposter syndrome, I think the longer that sort of I spend, or the longer I spent, starting these projects, hitting sort of a hurdle and then having to postpone it or ditch it, then starting another project, same thing happens. I think that just builds that sort of feeling even more so. I think now that I'm feeling a bit more well-rounded and I've been able to actually create this sort of the fundamentals to this project now, I think things like that, the self-doubt and the sort of more internal struggles, will hopefully come to an end, or at least alleviate slightly, to allow me to sort of do things like that.
I think something else that kind of helps take away so this event, this meetup you're going, people are going to be allowed to set up their laptops.
Yeah.
Okay. So something definitely too that it's easy to forget about, and if you can make it so your game can play itself, or like,
Sure.
set up somebody else to demo your game for you, it's really good to make sure that it is a give and take when you're out at these events, to go around, play other people's games. That's why if you have somebody else at your station, you can go around and really talk to other people and get passionate about their games. It really helps with that community. It should be something where everyone's helping each other out, and that does involve
definitely
going and checking out their stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and I hope that sort of when I go to these things as well, that I hope that sort of I meet people who are at the position I was at maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where I felt like I'd hit a wall that I wasn't going to be able to get past, and sort of, and I think like you were saying, these are things that every dev's going to feel in some way. So I kind of want to be able to help other people as well, not from a development side, because I know that my technical skills are still growing and getting better, but perhaps from the sort of mental side, which is, I don't think, talked about enough, especially in creative sort of journeys, independent creative journeys anyway, because I don't know about sort of you guys, but it's a very sort of lonely journey as well, because sort of a lot of these battles you have are just with yourself, and I felt that mostly when I do writing, because I'm very self-critical of my own writing, and I struggle a lot with just doing a first draft that I know I'm going to come back to and change, but I try and change it on the fly as well all the time. So I think that it is a very lonely journey, and I think that the more people talk about it and realize that it's normal, and everybody goes through it, it becomes sort of less lonely in a way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, we talk about on our show sometimes. It's just like, as we learn, because I come from more of just a gamer's perspective. as we learn more about development, it's like there's a lot of human sacrifice that goes into it mentally, and it's not acceptable or like should be allowed, like when it comes to like a big AAA studio, just like pushing on their devs. But like there's a lot of mental struggle that just doesn't see the light of day when it comes to when it gets in a gamer's hand. They just experience the game, but there's a lot of sacrifice and time spent away from family, or crunching, or just like mental breakdown stuff that we don't hear about. And it's all for the pursuit of making a game, which is so like counterintuitive to sacrifice your sanity for someone else to have fun. It's an interesting thing. But
if they weren't so hard to make, and that's sort of the weird thing, is a lot of degrees they get kind of compared to like movies, right? Because it's still like similar budgets. You watch them on your TV or whatever. Like it's similar, but it's like complete night and day to make them.
Gotcha.
Because you got movies you can do, and people can pump out like a
year.
AAA movie in 4 months.
Yeah.
Not counting editing. For whatever reason takes forever. But like all the actual production, whereas games, like the production's nothing close to that. Like there's no bugs in movie development.
That's true. Yeah.
This is it's like, I mean, like we talked about with was it Last of Us? Like one of the most well-known, they hit their deadlines. They're having to delay this stuff.
Yeah, they still have to say, hey, we need 3 months, even though we had this big event, showcasing the release date. But
shit happens, and it can't be controlled.
But that just goes to show how amazing creating games is, because everyone has these struggles, but they don't. We don't suddenly just go, oh, do you know what? I'm sick of feeling this way. I'm not going to pursue this anymore. You just sort of crack on and keep going until sort of something starts to go right. And I think that's just a testament to how amazing games are, and how they make not just the people who play them feel, but the people who create them feel as well.
Yeah, and that's such a tricky balance with it too. Like you mentioned, like working on it's not feeling great. It's like, when is the balance of do I push through? Or if you keep pushing and it's not working, then you have the potential for burnout. Or there's the case of, it's the I forget the name for it, when you invest a whole bunch of time into something that's not working. It's the time investment fallacy or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like, oh, this game isn't working, but it's like, I'm going to keep working on it, and it's going to get better. And then it's like, really, you should have just reset and done something else, because you invested all this time. But it sucks, because that's not, our brains won't let us do that for the most part.
It's your baby, you put so much time into it.
And that's a good point, actually. It's something I said briefly when you popped to the loo, is I used when I was using RPG Maker and Game Maker, I would often think to myself, am I using my time wisely here? Could I be learning something that's like Unity, that's going to teach me all this back end stuff, and it's going to be a lot less restrictive? Am I wasting my time in trying to use these engines that aren't really teaching me a whole lot about the things that I need to learn? So I think that whilst it's something that you need to be sort of conscious of, it's also something that can sort of on the opposite side of the spectrum sort of affect you sort of negatively as well, because sometimes you might be thinking, oh, I'm spending my time unwisely doing this, when actually you aren't. It's just sort of all in your head. But then saying that, I am very glad that I did make that decision and go to Unity, because I now feel so much better about sort of my standing in development, now that I sort of understand a much more complicated engine. But I think you're absolutely right. I think it is something that you need to be conscious of, especially when you look deeper into a project you're working on. If you're thinking, his elbow looks kind of weird, and you spend sort of hours and hours trying to animate somebody's elbow, when you could have been making your game much more substantial, and making it have a much more fun gameplay loop, or adding in much more serious features, but instead you spent hours on this tiny little thing. So I think it's something you need to learn to juggle, and to understand when it's valid and when it's not, maybe not.
Do got to get that elbow right, though, because that's the
elbow.
Elbow. The elbow is the eye to the soul.
I'm not buying day one if that elbow. That's why
Maybe
Dead Stranding got so much mixed reviews. I mean, that elbow physics were.
Did it get mixed reviews?
Oh yeah, for sure. Death Stranding. Yeah, we talked about. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know what? That reminds me a little bit. We're talking about tools, development tools. Do you have any interest in? Because I know I've been reading your profile and stuff. You're a PlayStation fan. Do you have any interest in stuff like Dreams, where you're using a completely different, way to develop a game?
Yeah, Dreams is a weird one. I haven't I haven't used it at all. But I'm just not sure. I just feel like, again, going back to this sort of investing time, I think if Dreams had come along sort of at a time when it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, then I would have probably been interested. But for me, it was just something similar to something like RPG Maker or Game Maker, where it was trying to hide all the scary technical stuff so it's more accessible. But when that did come out, I was getting to the point where I was like, I don't want something accessible. I want to learn all the really inaccessible stuff. But yeah, I think it looks interesting. I think it's really funny. I think it's funny to me how when it first came out, it was mostly just people trying to recreate things.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like Metal Gear Solid level recreations and
Yeah.
like Crash Bandicoot. Yeah.
And I saw that because Media Molecule aren't far from me actually, but I saw that they were hiring for people to make games in Dreams for them, which was a bit.
That's my not conspiracy theory, but I feel like that's an opportunity, hopefully not missed, where Sony can say, hey, we have almost like a feeder league. If you can develop something cool in Dreams, then we snag up that talent. Like I feel like there's something there on that end where they can really use that as a way to cultivate cool ideas and stuff, and then use those to make a game. Or because Dreams is not going to sell, or they just shutter that studio completely, which I fear is going to happen. They worked on Dreams for 6 years or something.
Yeah,
it's longer than that.
I think it's a shame as well because I love Media Molecule. The first Little Big Planet was brilliant, and I never played Little Planet 2 and 3. I think 3 was made by Sumo, wasn't it? Anyway, or somebody else. But yeah, the first Little Planet was amazing, and it just had so much character. And I think it is in a way a shame that it's this studio in particular that has made Dreams. But I can't speak on its quality because I haven't tried it myself.
I did play a little bit of they had a beta early on, and I got in on that, and it's way over my head, but you can see that, like, because they do an intro level basically showing you the different components, and they start to stack up pretty quickly with how complicated they can get. But like, there is something there where maybe if you're not as if you're not looking at it from the technical side, like if you want to go into coding, I feel like that's the benefit. It's more of a visual thing, but it's still pretty daunting. So it's not like, my nephew, 8-year-old, can like just start messing something or making something cool. It's like you still have to have a good head on your shoulders. But I wondered your take on that.
Yeah, I think it definitely has a place. I think because it's not only when it comes to game development, it's not just the coding and the writing. You've also got you need to make something fun to play, and I think that can be very difficult. And I think that Dreams probably helps people maybe understand that aspect. How can I make something that's fun to play? How can I pace a game? How can I sort of do all this kind of thing? So I think it definitely has its place. I just think I just don't really understand it, to be honest. I don't really understand why the whys and and hows of sort of its release, really. But I think people obviously like it, especially when it first came out. I used to see quite a lot of videos from it, so it has its place, and that's great if people are enjoying it.
Gotcha.
Now, a little question I always kind of like is from what I found, it seems like every person who does game dev kind of has this kind of like a seed game, right? That's like they're perfect. Like if they could go back in time and work on a game, like that would be the one. Like this is my style of game. I would love to make one day. What's sort of your seed of inspiration game? I know you may need a sec. I know that's kind of like a big.
Well, I'd probably say, because my passion is mostly in writing and bringing out stories and characters through gameplay. This is probably going to be a bit of a hypocritical choice because of what I just said. But I mean, my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy IX. I think from a storytelling perspective, it's just perfect. I think it sort of has such amazing character arcs, and I just love and because I love JRPGs anyway, sort of the more classical ones, I just think it's perfect. And I love JRPGs. I love the sort of older ones like 9, where you don't know where you're going unless you speak to people. I love games that
Like
don't.
Shenmue.
Yeah, Shenmue's right up your alley. There you go.
Do you know where I could find some sailors?
I like games that direct you without telling you necessarily, if that makes sense. So
I love that. Yeah, I love that whole idea where it's like the art of showing you without having to show you, especially in movies
Sure.
too.
Yeah, it's like in the original Zelda game. I think that's a really sort of often used example when sort of thinking about this kind of thing, is sort of you start off and there's probably like 3 or 4 paths. It doesn't tell you where to go, but you sort of end up knowing where to go through process of elimination. And you go one way and all the enemies are far too difficult to fight right now, so you go somewhere else, and these enemies seem a bit more achievable to sort of defeat. So you defeat them, you get a bit stronger, you find some things, you go back to that place, you can. So I think that I think I suppose I could use any Final Fantasy example, but I think the way that uses that kind of game direction with sort of such an amazing and meaningful sort of character arcs and sort of world and stories. I just love that sort of balance of things. But I suppose from a game design perspective, I'm really not sure. It's such a hard question. I've never been asked that before. It's normally sort of what's your favorite game or that, but I'm not sure. I'll have a think about it. I'll have a think.
And that, I mean I think that's sort of where it gets that tricky thing, and I've mentioned that to many people, and they typically do need. But it's like your favorite game of all time is definitely different than sort of that seed game that kind of goes.
Just then, when I was talking, I was thinking of there's lots of things in Final Fantasy 9 that I hate in terms of from a game.
Just like, let me get a crack at it. I'm just
exactly, So I'm really not sure, to be honest. I love the first Jak and Daxter game.
Okay. I never played those. I always meant to go back.
The first one in particular. I'm not a huge fan of open world games, just because I end up getting bored of the mechanics really early on, because I end up messing around for too long, and then by the time that I'm 20, 30 hours in, because I've decided to actually do the main quest, I'm so bored of everything now. Which is why I saw you guys have been playing Outer Worlds, but I love how the regions are quite small and tight and concise, and then you go to a different one because it sort of, it's not too daunting. It's very manageable and accessible.
Sorry, Callum. I mean, Gavin, do this. Was it Outer Worlds or Outer Wilds?
Outer Worlds, the Obsidian.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
Have you played Outer Wilds?
I haven't. No. I remember. Was it E3 that they showed the trailer at? Is something you did like a campfire or something?
Yeah.
I haven't played that one though.
Gotcha. That one's, I think, could be right up your alley too, because I think the writing's pretty strong in that, and the world building is really strong.
Right. The fact that basically the story is split, all these pieces of writing are split amongst all these planets, and you're slowly piecing together the civilization, these people, what's happening, what happened, and how you kind of got to where you are now.
Right.
Yeah, it's got a very.
But now that's Outer Wilds. How are you faring with Outer Worlds?
I'm loving it. I've just got to I don't want to sort of spoil anything, but I haven't played it too much, to be honest.
Now, when the Ghostbusters show up at the end, how do you feel about T-Rex?
I've just gotten to the second traversably. I can't think of the right word to say, but the second sort of place you travel to. So I've just done. I suppose it won't spoil it, but I've just done Edgewater. I've done all the missions there and made that horror. Chapter 2. Made that horrible choice, which I was.
I loved it. I loved it so much because we decided we were gonna have different experiences. So our stats are opposite. Yeah. He made one choice.
Yeah.
And I made the other, and I was like, man, I don't want to make my choice. This is the bad choice.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being the best possible choice. I'm like, oh my god, thank you for making me do that.
Well, I got to the plant, and I was thinking, I was sort of at that point, I was like, right, I think I know what I'm gonna do. And then is it what's her name, Pavati, the follower?
Yeah,
Bobby.
And then she spoke to me and told me her opinion on it, and it completely influenced me, like completely swayed my choice. So I made that choice, the one she sort of tries to sway you to, and I ended up actually quite liking the outcome of it. It all seemed to. So I'm not sure whether they were trying to angle it to make you think one thing and then it's actually the other, or. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's given me some old school sort. Well, I say old school, but like Fallout 3 sort of New Vegas vibes.
Sometimes to a
But
fault with like the gunplay for me, but the
yeah,
writing like is just so strong for me. Like it's super
oh
funny.
yeah, it's one of the only games where I actually will hear out all the voice acting. And try and find, because normally, I suppose this is just going back to me enjoying sort of old school JRPGs. I normally just read it and then skip when I've read it, but I love the writing and the dialogue is so good, and it reminds me a lot of Dragon Age Origins slightly as well, with the way you interact with people and the way they interact with your companions and the way your companions will interact. I'm loving it. I'm really, really enjoying it.
The companions were definitely a very strong choice. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, it is awesome.
Now, what other games are kind of have influenced you recently? Like, what are you playing now that kind of will seep into your, creative ideas, or just really what are you enjoying right now as well? On top of that,
I've been playing so I've been playing Outer Worlds on my PC. I got it through the Game Pass through the
oh,
Microsoft
gotcha. I
Store.
have it on Xbox with that Game Pass.
Yeah, yeah. So I've just been playing that. On my PS4. I recently played the single player to the new Call of Duty, which was I thought it was good. I think most of them are normally pretty solid. I didn't enjoy the multiplayer, but that's because I'm a washed up old person in respect
Yeah,
to
these
multiplayer.
12-year-olds, man, they're
I know.
just hopped up
Yeah.
on whatever Mountain Dew.
I would be curious. So I wonder how those, coming at it from like a perspective, like as an American, like when we play those games, like a big flag unfurls behind us, eagles cry, fireworks go off. Does that still happen over there?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen I've seen a lot of articles sort of saying how America are trying to be the good guys, but I don't really see it. I don't really buy that, because it's just a fun story. Like I don't really I don't really care about all the politics behind what may or may not have been the reason for the choice. I thought the characters were good. I thought it was a good fun short romp, and I think that's all there is to it really. I just don't think it's worth delving too deep into. But I've also been playing the Final Fantasy VIII remaster and Borderlands 3, which I recently got the platinum trophy on.
So, what's the platinum trophy?
So it means I got all the achievements.
Oh damn!
Yeah,
it's such a good game. I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm playing. I found it really hard to go from Borderlands 3 to the Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
As far as the speed of what's happening.
That gameplay in it's definitely the best Borderlands gameplay, and it's and sliding. Yeah, and mantling, it's great. And then to go to Outer Wilds, where it's like, I'm not actually sure if I'm hitting this person.
Well, that's funny you say that, actually, because when I downloaded Outer Worlds, I'd just come off the back of playing Borderlands 3, and I'd put a lot of time into it. And I was thinking to myself, because I played Borderlands on my PS4, and I got Outer Worlds on my PC, and I was like, right, this is probably not going to play as nicely as Borderlands did with the gunplay. So I'm going to dump all my stats into dialogue and melee. And then, because I thought it'd be quite fun to sneak around melee people, and then I won't have to worry about trying to frantically run around like I would in Borderlands. But then I used a gun, and I actually didn't mind the gunplay too much. I don't think it's... I mean, there's certain things like not being able to vault over everything and sort of jump up things, and it seems if you fall like about 3 feet in the Outer Worlds, you break your legs. So there's some things that are a bit jarring to get used to, but no, I actually just quite like the gunplay, so I've now started dumping my points into the guns, and so but yeah, there's definitely a bit of a difference. But the one thing the Outer Worlds does much better is its UI is so much nicer to use than the Borderlands 3 one. I found it, I don't know about on whatever systems you played it on, but on the PS4 it was awful. You bring up the UI and it just slows the whole game down. It was just horrendous. The map was horrible to use in Borderlands. Yeah.
Yeah, it does that. Yeah, it does that a little bit on my PC. I think and I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I know with Outer Worlds, I'm experiencing it's little gripes, little like quality of life stuff where like moving my reticle to choose which world to travel to. It's like a slow, trug of the little reticle on screen. But and then like loading for me, I'm playing on Xbox One X is terrible. I don't know if Gavin has had faster times on PC, but like it's terrible.
Well, it's funny you say that. I'd understand if I was playing on my PS4, I'd probably understand the cursor thing. Fortunately, with a mouse, it's really nice. The only thing I'd probably have a tiny gripe with is, when you go to click on something in your inventory to use it, you have to hover over it and tap E, which can be a little bit of a pain. So I'd rather just click it. But
live hard lives, It's a struggle out here to have to tap E and like.
Yeah, I know. But the loading times I've actually noticed have been really quick. I thought they were really good. It's been quite nice, fast traveling around.
Thing.
But I don't know. I'm not. It might be just. Sometimes I've been used to some really horrible loading screens, so maybe it's just sort of that really. And I have a base PS4 which I play most of my games on, so maybe everything's just horrendous on that.
Now, is your PS4 like hovering and taking off with the sound like the fans going? Is it like?
I normally have my headphones on when I'm playing it, so I can't. But I remember I've got one of the PS4 Slims now. I got this sort of blue limited edition one that was really cheap. So I traded in my old one for that. But I remember when I got Uncharted 4, the menu screen, just the main menu, made it sound like it was going to space. It was
the menu screen.
Yeah, and then as soon as I start the game, it's still loud, but it's not as bad. But the menu screen is.
They're just doing ray tracing on the menu. They're like, this is people's first impression. We want it to be good.
I think that's why Borderlands 3's menus were so slow, because they try and overlay it over everything. So and apparently it's even worse when you play it with friends. I played the whole thing solo because I heard it had lots of problems online.
I assume what it is, I would think, is what a lot of people use for their menu systems is there's this, I forget the name of it, but there's this this system where you can make your menus and all those interactive surfaces in Flash, like straight up Adobe Flash. Yeah. And then you export that file and you can load it into the game. And that's literally what people use for a lot of these menus. Now, that's incredibly unoptimized. Mm-hmm. And so that's why there's a lot of issues. They're using more triangles than they need to be. Yeah. It's just, so that tends to be a lot of what
I feel like there's a big focus on trying to make your UI as flashy and as amazing looking as possible, when really I think Outer Worlds is a great example of a UI that's nice and simple. They haven't put too much in, there's not, everything's trying to come out into your face, and I just prefer menus that are just nice and simple. I like to play the game, and if the game's fun, great. If the menu, as long as the menus are quick and responsive, then because the thing is, it's like when I'm playing Borderlands 3, I dread pressing the menu button. I'm just like, oh no, I've got to change a weapon. Oh god. And I just think, just surely, how did that get past? like surely, like people testing it must have been like, oh, by the way, when you press the menu button, it takes about 5 seconds for it to load. So that
Rage 2 had similar issues with navigating the menu too, where it was painful.
I'm hoping it's just like a sort of a fashionable thing at the moment where everyone's trying to outdo each other with UIs, and I'm hoping it will die soon.
Well, part of it too is now the industry is now grown enough and it's getting more organized. We've gone away from just UI designers to we have the people that just work on the UI, and there's a UX coordinator that's coordinating all these different teams. And there's so many theories behind that and that unified experience. I think we're most likely kind of in a huge age of experimentation. And really, there's so much knowledge out there, and what do we do with it? And certainly, like you mentioned, flashy. Some of the reason behind that is men's eyes in particular are more reactive to motion and flashing, and it's a really good because you can see something flashing out of the corner of your eye. Like one of my favorite UI health bars is Titanfall, because it'll do this big, even though it's clear at the top and you're playing on your 4K TV or whatever, so it's hard to see. You see this big flash and a line downwards, so you know what your health is very, very easily, and so it's just sort of a thing with our eyes, and it's
Well, I suppose sort of on that topic, I actually really like the in-game UI of Borderlands. I like how it sort of stayed similar but gotten, I suppose, more flashy, and I do like that. It's just it's more the sort of meta menus that I feel, but I think you're right. I think having these new roles and these big teams to do UI, I think is important, especially mostly from a, I suppose, data analytical perspective, sort of what people want. But yeah, I think, like you said, now that these teams have gotten so big, I think there's going to be teething problems in respect to being a bit too not knowing when something's done. I think they need to show a bit more. What's the word? I can't think of the word, but they need to sort of just show some. What is the word? It's on the end of my tongue. No, it's not even that great of a word. I just can't remember it.
Banana. They need to do more banana.
Yeah, banana. Yeah, they need more bananas and tomatoes. But yes.
Getting back a little bit to kind of your experience. So, you come at things from a writing background, and again, we're sort of the whole industry is doing all this experimentation with, the way we do things. More writing-based games. Like you have the something of Edith Finch. Why am I forgetting the name of that?
Vanishing of Edith Finch.
Yeah. Vanishing of Edith Finch. You have a game that I adore, Reigns. Where it's just like Tinder,
Sure.
But with gameplay, and all these sort of is there something really in particular that in the writing world that sort of lit your world on fire in terms of just a cool gameplay way of handling that, and are there anything you're kind of looking to delve into sort of that
games
way?
like that you just mentioned then, and sort of similar games like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and things like that. I actually don't really like. I don't really enjoy them.
Really?
Yeah, I don't particularly like walking simulator kind of. I know that's a kind of, in a way, offensive term, but that kind.
It's accurate, and it's not.
Yeah.
How you view it.
Has anyone asked the devs if they're offended by the term walking simulator? Because if I made one of those and someone called it a walking simulator, I would not care.
You never know. You never know.
I think it might have started off as a slant or whatever, but now that community has been like, we make these and there's a story.
That's the genre. I mean, it explains it as good as the term first-person shooter does.
Sure. And there's more to first-person shooters than that. Yeah.
It's way better than saying RPG. That's garbage term. Like that's not helpful.
Yeah.
I think the kind of writing perspective or the sort of writing that I enjoy in games is when because like I was saying earlier, is that when I sort of started to realize that storytelling in games is just as viable as storytelling in movies and TV, I actually think it's the best form, because you have the game part of it to bring out the best of the storytelling. And I think that when you have a game where you're just pushing the analog stick and interacting with things, I don't think that's using the fact it's a game well enough. I'd much rather watch a film with that same plot and the same ideas than to just put my thumb on the analog stick and look around. And they're always really slow as well. Like, they never feel good to play. So for me, it's more I like it when there's a really strong narrative, but the game helps amplify those sort of narrative points as well. And so I think off the back on the back of my head, sort of like The Last of Us, like a really obvious example to use. An amazing story. The gameplay leaves some things to be desired. I mean, it definitely hasn't aged too well in that respect. But really small things like seeing the body language of the characters change in the gameplay. So you see how like Ellie and Joel's body language towards each other whilst you're playing changes. And I think just really small things like that can only be shown in games. Exactly. Yeah, and I think even when you're playing the game, and you see how Ellie helps you in combat, and that changes the closer they get. She becomes more volatile. She sort of puts herself more at risk in combat the closer she gets to Joel. And it's just small things like that that I think that people don't really notice. I mean, I definitely probably didn't notice it the first time I played it, but subconsciously it's helping weave that story, and sort of only through the game can that be done. So yeah, so I don't. Yeah, I think it has to be balanced. I think a game still has to have a central mechanic that is going to be fun to play, and then the story has to sort of. I think the story has to be sort of weaved around that, but I think the mechanic must come before the story and the writing and everything like that. If that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you try? Forget the dev's name, but they did Detroit Become Human.
I didn't actually know that. I
Like right up your alley. There's the story's deep, but like there's all these different choices as well.
yeah. Well, I played Heavy Rain, and I didn't really. I loved Fahrenheit. That was another game my sister played when I was a bit younger.
See, that's one I never got to play, but that's what got me so jacked up for Heavy Rain. I never played Fahrenheit, but then I loved Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
But,
well, again, it's probably me not explaining myself, so apologies if I come across as like hypocritical. But
you sound like an asshole, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. that's just me being British. I mean, we also...
yeah, you know what? Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's probably just not me being able to explain it or articulate myself. But with sort of like Heavy Rain, I just don't feel like those games have like a sort of a gameplay loop, which is something I look for in a game.
Oh, for sure they don't. Yeah, yeah.
And I just think because when it's something, it's basically like an interactive cutscene.
It is, yeah. And it's the opposite of what you mentioned, where the loop, the incentive to play that aspect of the game isn't as fun, but that's where the story does definitely triumph over the gameplay.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I'd just be curious to like how you would contrast that to like Until Dawn. This is a very different.
I liked Until Dawn. I liked Until Dawn because it felt like a survival horror game. In the sort of way that you didn't really know whether your character was going to make it out of this next bit, and it was still very explorative, but it felt like a game. If I remember correctly, it had like fixed camera angles or sort of kind of fixed camera angles, which it sort of gave me like the old school Resident Evil vibes, which I just find scary. I find fixed camera angles very scary. I think because you sort of know that they're meticulously placed in a certain way for something to zip across or something like that. So I did enjoy Until Dawn. So yeah, I think it's for me it's kind of a sort of an area where I'd have to play it to see if I enjoyed it. But generally speaking, if there's not a lot of if there's not a sort of an obvious gameplay sort of loop or a mechanic that the game's centered around, then I normally won't enjoy it too much. But I mean, but these games they do have great writing. I'd rather consume that experience in a different way.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, Callum, I appreciate you talking to us, man. This has been awesome. I feel like we could keep going for.
That's the thing.
It's been about an hour. I don't want to keep you too long, so I mean, I think we'll kind of round it up here. And I would love to, if you're interested, in a couple of months here, kind of touch base with you again and just see where you're going, where your journey is, what how you've been with developing these projects, and if you've gone to some of these game jams and kind of follow up with that. But
I think that would be nice for me to sort of make sure I sort of go do these things that I know I need to do as well, because otherwise I'll talk to you guys and be like, yeah, no, I didn't do any of that. But yeah,
makes us sound like your parents now. That's
right. Yeah.
But no, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoy sort of talking to sort of people like yourselves on this kind of subject. It means a lot to me. Obviously, means a lot to you guys. So it's nice to come together and sort of discuss things that we're both passionate in. So.
Cool, Callum. So we usually, the way we end our show is like I'll give you the chance to plug whatever you're working on, and then whatever kind of social media tags you want to throw in there, where they can find you online.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Let me just try and remember what they are. Yeah. So
what's your MySpace?
Yeah. So what I try. I mean, it's something I'm going to try and use a bit more of my social media. But my Instagram is C Munro Game Dev, which is CMUNRO, and then Game Dev. And my Twitter is Bear Munro, which is BARE and then Munro, MUNRO.
Gotcha. And I'll find these two and I'll put them, little visual placeholders too for people to.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's something I need to keep more on top of, and share what I'm doing and stop being so lazy.
Hey man, I hear you. Awesome,
Yeah,
dude. Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting us talk.
It's been a pleasure. No, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Cheers.
We'll see you later, man. Bye.
See you later. Thank you.